is looking increasingly likely that Luis Diaz will leave Liverpool this summer. He was our second best attacker this season. I don't think in May we would have seen this coming, but it just shows, anything can happen. There's only a few players, I think, in our squad that are really unsellable, and it seems like Lucho is pushing for that move to Bayern. He'll obviously get much better wages there. They're going to send another bid because the first bid got rejected, and we shall see if Liverpool's willing to accept or not. But the good news is it seems like we have a plan. If he was to leave, it seems like we could go all in for Rodrygo. There's been shouts of Fofana as well, but I think probably we're going to try to go big on Rodrygo, because if Lucho was to go, I think Slot wanted to keep hold of him. I do think he wanted to keep hold of him, not to the extent that we were willing to offer him a new contract, which is interesting because the reliable reports were saying since he still has 2 years left, we weren't willing to offer him a new contract this summer. But if you're talking about us potentially getting 80 million this summer, when, again, he has 2 years left on his contract and he's turning 29 in January, as much as I love Lucho and as much as I did think he did very well last season and think he was such an important part of that team, I think it's difficult to turn that down. You know what I mean? Especially considering how good our recruitment is. If we were a different football club where I felt like we really struggle in the market, I probably would be a lot more reluctant. But the reality is we have Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes at the helm, and look at what they've done already this summer and just their track record. So given that's who's in charge, that's what makes me very confident to say, even though Lucho, you've been fantastic, and I'm only going to have good memories of him because, players like Luis Diaz who are always going to give you 100% no matter what, tracking back, going, just everything. He gives his all, and I don't think you can ask for much more than that, and he's always done that as a Liverpool player. And that's why people online that, it's only a minority, I'm not saying this is all Liverpool fans or anything, but I've seen people be negative about the fact that he wants to leave the club, but people got to be understanding that, if he has much bigger offers elsewhere, he's turning again 29 in January, you can understand him being really interested in that, So I think we have to try to just put ourselves in his shoes a bit for that, because of, again, the type of money that he probably can be earning in different places. And it seems like Bayern really do want him, so they'd be offering him major wages, and he's not one of the highest earners at Liverpool. That we do know. I'm not going to throw around specific numbers because I don't know what's accurate, but he's not one of the highest earners, So, yeah, and with it either being Bayern or Saudi, it's going to be one of the two. We shall see which one it'll end up. It seems like right now it will most likely be Bayern because he seems to really want that move, But yeah, we shall see how all of that develops. And then, like I said, for the replacement, it'll be really, really interesting to see who we go for with that money, because we will have real major funds, And with those major funds, I think that we're really going to push for Rodrygo because, we spoke about it before. Edwards has been a fan of his for many, many years. And I believe that if there's any signs that he could become available in the market, and even before the Luis Diaz noise was picking up, there was already kind of news from Spain that Rodrygo could grow unsettled at Madrid because he's being played out of position, and the fact that, again, we were talking about it before, Xabi Alonso didn't play him in any of the knockout games, didn't start him in any of the knockout games at the Club World Cup. That's pretty telling as well, But yeah, with Lucho, from our standpoint, I think we can be very, very happy about the time that he had at the club, because he came in, he would be leaving for a profit. I think we got him for some of his best years. And like I said, he really gave his all. And, we all love his song. And if he had a farewell, I know he would have had a beautiful farewell. It's not looking likely, because if he was to leave this summer, like I said, I don't think in May we saw it coming. But that's football as well. It's so unpredictable. And I think there's very, very few players in this Liverpool team that are kind of priceless or that we will do everything to keep a hold of. And the two that we extended, for example, for 2 more years, Mohamed Salah and Virgil van Dijk, I think they're the type of players that are just outstanding talents in world football that are the best in their position, and you simply don't replace them. They're players where, unfortunately, the day they'll have to leave, and there will come a day when they have to leave, you don't say someone's going to like replace the output of Mohamed Salah or replace the leadership and quality of Virgil, playing at center back. You just can't. However, a player like Luis Diaz, as good as he is, I think we can try to find someone who's has more of a killer instinct in the final third. Someone who really, really will be deadly in front of goal. And someone like Rodrygo, again, he's proven in the big games for Real Madrid. I think about some Champions League games. He came up with goals at a very young age. And he's very experienced at the highest level, and yet he's just 24 years old, So I think we see that being an incredible market opportunity if we can go for it. And that's probably one of the reasons why Slot, Hughes, and Edwards are more open to selling Lucho, because they see the type of players that are available in the market and see them as potential replacements. So it'll be very, very interesting to see what happens. I think the Lucho one is going to develop quite quickly because, like I said, Bayern seem real interested. So let's keep an eye on that within the coming days. And then I expect us to dip, as crazy as it is because of how busy we've been. I expect us to dip back into the market and look for another attacker, because losing Lucho is significant, especially for Arne Slot, considering how important he was in his first season at the football club. Whether it was on the left wing or down the middle, Slot really did trust him, which shows how highly he rates him, because we know the standards Slot has. But yeah, guys, let me know in the comments, in the building, how you're feeling about Lucho potentially leaving. Do you think it's a mistake, or do you think maybe this works out in the end because of who we could potentially bring in? What do you think? As you can see, I'm back in the grass again here in Iceland. There's actually a football pitch right behind, but there's a bunch of kids playing, so I knew I couldn't film there. I would have loved to because it's beautiful. And then by the ocean, again, it's way, way, way too windy today, so I had to kind of find this hill. Look, it's like a hill in the grass, because with this hill, it blocks all the wind, so at least the sound isn't so bad like it would be over there. Otherwise, like right now I'm heading straight back to the ocean to go on a walk. So for those of you that are still listening, thank you very much for the support. It's been so much fun starting this new channel, this new adventure, diving into long form, because it's not a world that I know, but one that I'm very excited about, because it's possible to go a bit more in depth and have deep, meaningful convos, so I hope to keep growing in that aspect and for us to connect that way. But and I hope you guys are able to go on a walk today too, because for me, like that daily walk is just an absolute essential part of the day. I don't know where I'd be mentally without it. But guys, again, thank you very, very much, and I will see you soon. Ciao, guys.